In 1963, the Automobile Manufacturers Association signed an agreement to end factory involvement in racing. The major American manufacturers, Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, would no longer provide direct engineering support, factory racing teams, or purpose-built race cars for motorsport competition. The deal was driven partly by safety concerns and partly by the political reality that Washington was paying attention. General Motors took the agreement further than most. By 1967, GM had an internal policy that prohibited any of its divisions from selling a vehicle with more than 1 horsepower for every 10 pounds of vehicle weight. No division would offer a mid-size car with an engine larger than 400 cubic inches, no factory drag racing support. The General was out of the speed business. Then two completely different corners of the GM empire did exactly the same thing at exactly the same time. They went around corporate. At Chevrolet, a network of performance dealers and a little-known ordering system called the Central Office Production Order produced the ZL1 Camaro, an all-aluminium 427 cubic inch racing engine installed in a street Camaro, sold through dealers who were technically not supposed to be offering it. At Oldsmobile, an outside contractor named Hurst Performance produced the Hurst Olds, a 455 cubic inch engine in an intermediate Oldsmobile body, converted off-site, with Hurst's name on the car because Oldsmobile could not officially put its own on what it had arranged. Same company, same year, same corporate policy they were both ignoring. Two completely different strategies, both of them worked. The Central Office Production Order System, COPO, had been designed for fleet customers, police departments, taxi companies, commercial operators who needed non-standard configurations that the regular options list did not cover. It was a bureaucratic mechanism for ordering cars that were not officially available. It was not, in GM's original conception, a performance loophole. Don Yenko understood that it could be. Yenko was a Chevrolet dealer in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania, who had been buying standard Camaros and installing performance engines himself, a costly process that required him to absorb the conversion expense and liability. In 1968, Yenko approached Chevrolet with a proposal. If he could order Camaros with the L72 427 already installed at the factory using the COPO system, the cars would be cheaper to build, faster to deliver, and carry a factory warranty. Chevrolet agreed. COPO 9561 delivered the L72, a 427 cubic inch iron block engine with solid lifter camshaft, rectangular port heads, 4-bolt main bearings, and an 800 cubic feet per minute Holley carburetor. Factory rating, 425 horsepower. That number was accepted by nobody who drove one. The L72 produced consistent quarter-mile times in the 13.4 to 13.6 range in standard trim, performance that required considerably more than 425 horsepower to achieve. But Yenko went further. COPO 9560 offered something that had no business in a street car, the ZL1. This was the all-aluminium version of the 427, block, heads, and intake manifold, all cast in aluminium, that Chevrolet had developed for Can-Am racing. The ZL1 weighed approximately 100 pounds less than the iron L72. It displaced the same 427 cubic inches. It used the same solid lifter camshaft. The official factory rating was 430 horsepower, a number that period dyno testing and the car's documented quarter-mile performance both suggested was significantly understated. Credible estimates of actual output range from 500 to 560 horsepower. The ZL, one engine option alone cost $4,160. Approximately the base price of an entire Camaro. Total ZL1 Camaro prices exceeded $7,200 in a market where a Camaro SS 396 started at around $2,900. 69 were produced for 1969. The number was not a target. It was the result of how many buyers could be found for a $7,000 street car built around a racing engine. Hot Rod Magazine tested a ZL1 with driver Bill Jenkins, the same Jenkins who would build one of the most successful pro-stock drag racing programs in NHRA history. and recorded 13.16 seconds at 110.21 miles per hour. That time was faster than the officially rated horsepower could have produced, and faster than any other production car available through a dealer in 1969. Oldsmobile's problem was displacement. GM's corporate policy capped intermediate car engines at 400 cubic inches. Oldsmobile had a 455 cubic inch engine, the W45, that produced 500 pound-feet of torque at 3,200 revolutions per minute, numbers that made it one of the torquiest engines available in any American production car. The corporate rules said it could not go into an intermediate body. Oldsmobile found a way. Hurst Performance Research had been supplying gear shifters to virtually every American performance car manufacturer since the early 1960s. The Hurst shifter had become the performance standard, installed in Mopar, Ford, and GM muscle cars alike. Hurst's relationship with the American performance industry gave them a credibility and independence that no single manufacturer's in-house operation could match. The arrangement between Oldsmobile and Hurst was straightforward in concept and significant in implication. Oldsmobile would produce 4 4.2 Cutlass bodies without engines at the Lansing plant. These incomplete cars would be trucked to Hurst's facility in Warminster, Pennsylvania. Hurst would install the W45 455 engine, perform the body modifications, the distinctive white and gold two-tone paint scheme, the Hurst dual-gate floor shifter, the Hurst Olds badging, and deliver the finished cars to Oldsmobile dealers. The cars would carry Hurst's name because Oldsmobile could not officially claim them. The W45 455 produced 380 horsepower at 5,000 revolutions per minute. The horsepower number is less interesting than the torque, 500 pound-feet at 3,200 revolutions per minute. That torque curve made the Hurst Olds effortless, in a way that high-revving racing engines were not. The car pulled hard from idle, continued pulling through the mid-range, and arrived at the quarter mile in the 13.9 to 14.1 range in standard trim, without ever feeling like it was working particularly hard. It was not the screaming, demanding experience of the ZL1. It was something more authoritative and considerably more livable. 913. Hurst Olds were built for 1969. The white and gold color scheme was not optional. It was standard on every car, which made the Hurst Olds immediately recognizable in a way that the black or dark-colored ZL1 Camaros were not. The Hurst Olds was meant to be seen. It was a statement car as much as a performance car, and the statement was that Oldsmobile knew how to build something fast. The ZL1's aluminium 427 and the W45 455 represented fundamentally different approaches to generating power in an era when big block displacement was the primary performance currency. The ZL1 achieved its output through high RPM operation, the solid lifter camshaft, the large port heads, and the free-breathing induction system were all calibrated to make power above 4,000 revolutions per minute. Below that threshold, the engine was unimpressive. It required commitment to extract its performance. The aluminium construction gave it a weight advantage that translated directly into performance. 100 pounds less than an equivalent iron block meant a car that launched harder and carried its momentum more efficiently through the quarter mile. The W45 455 made its case differently. 500 pound-feet of torque at 3,200 revolutions per minute means the engine is making its maximum twist before most driving situations would even require full throttle. That torque curve produced a car that felt effortlessly powerful in normal driving. Not a racing engine that needed management, but an engine that simply had more of everything at every point in the rev range than the competition could match. The Hurst Olds could be driven aggressively in any gear, at any speed, and the 455 would respond with authority. The ZL1 required the driver to be in the right gear, at the right RPM to access its capabilities. Both approaches were valid. Both produced results. The ZL1's high RPM power band made it faster in a standing quarter mile where everything was optimized for that single pass. The 455's torque character made it faster in every other context. City traffic, highway passing, the kind of driving that constitutes 95% of actual road use. The question of which approach was better depended entirely on what you did with the car after you left the dealer. On the drag strip, the ZL1 wins. 13.16 seconds at 110.21 miles per hour is the documented benchmark. The Hurst Olds runs the 13.9 to 14.1 range. Fast, but in a different conversation from the ZL1's performance. The aluminium 427's weight advantage, its higher specific output, and its purpose-built drag racing origins produce a car that the torque-heavy 455 cannot match in a standing quarter mile. But the ZL1's dominance at the strip comes with conditions. The solid lifter camshaft that makes the ZL1 fast at high RPM makes it difficult at low speed. Cold starts required warm-up time. The engine produced minimal power below 3,000 revolutions per minute. In traffic, in parking lots, on any road with a speed limit below 50 miles per hour, the ZL1 was a car that demanded active management from its driver. It was a racing engine. It behaved like a racing engine. The Hurst Olds 455 produced its 500 pound-feet of torque at 3,200 revolutions per minute. Below that, it was still making useful power. The car was fast from idle. It did not require warm-up rituals or rev management or a particular launch technique. You drove it like a car. A very fast car, but a car that did what you asked it to do without resistance. Car and driver tested the Hurst Olds and noted that its quarter-mile times were achieved without demanding anything unusual from the driver. Road and Track made the same observation. The Hurst Olds was quick without being difficult. The ZL1 was quicker, but the ZL1 required you to earn it. Both were built in the same year. Both circumvented the same corporate policy. Both were built by engineers who understood that the rules GM had written for itself were not the same as the laws of physics. The ZL1 won on the strip. The Hurst Olds won in everything that happens between strip visits. Between these two specifically, that trade-off depends entirely on what you drive every other day of the week. What happened to both cars after 1969 tells the same story from different angles. The ZL1 was too expensive, too mechanically demanding, and too far outside the mainstream to survive into the emissions era. The last aluminium 427s were used up in racing programs. Chevrolet never offered the ZL1 engine in a street car again. The 69 cars built in 1969 became collector items the moment production ended, and have remained among the most sought-after American muscle cars ever built. The numbers-matching 1969 ZL1 Camaro with verified COPO documentation and original drivetrain sells at major American auction for between $500,000 and $900,000. The combination of genuine rarity, 69 cars, and documented performance history makes verified examples effectively irreplaceable. Reproduction, COPO documentation, and engine swaps have complicated the collector market, which is why provenance verification has become a specialist discipline for ZL1 buyers. The Hurst Olds continued into 1970 with a revised design and different engine specifications. The relationship between Hurst and Oldsmobile produced further special editions through the muscle car era and into the 1970s. The original 1969 white and gold cars with the W45 455 and the matching numbers drivetrain command $60,000 to $90,000 in today's market. Significant money, but a fraction of the ZL1's premium. The 913 produced means qualified examples still appear at auction with some regularity. Both cars proved that corporate policy and engineering ambition are not the same thing. GM's anti-performance rules of 1967 existed in an organization that employed engineers who had spent careers building fast cars and were not interested in stopping. The COPO system and the Hurst arrangement were not acts of corporate rebellion. They were the natural result of giving talented engineers a policy they disagreed with and a system complicated enough to navigate. They found the gaps. They always do.